All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk. What happens at the barn stays in the barn, but not today. We're going to let it all out for you guys. Today is going to be a Q&A episode. The questions have been piling up, and we're going to get to as many as we possibly can. We got some good ones. If you guys want to submit your questions so they can get answered on the show, submit them at barntalkshow@gmail.com, or, leave them in the YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Try to DM us, but the best way is through the email, barntalkshow@gmail.com. Pay the fee. If you guys get any value from the show, share it out with your friends, family, coworkers, team members, employees, whoever. The more you guys share the show, the better guests we can have on, the better content we can make, and it's just a win-win for everybody. And it's kind of the ticket to admission to watch or listen to the show. So thank you to all that have been doing that. And finally, leave a review on Spotify or Apple. So we finally hit 1,000 5-star Spotify reviews. And I like seeing that 1K. I like seeing that 1K on Spotify. So our next goal for Spotify, it's a lofty goal now, 5K. If we can get
exclusive deal.
Oh, well, that'd be great. If they'd give us, if they treat us like Rogan, that'd be awesome. But I don't know. That's a little down the pipeline. I'm thinking 5,000 5-star Spotify reviews is a good goal. Apple, if you're listening on Apple, guys, we're still trying to get to 1,000. We're at like 4. Oh, I can't.
We got a ways to go.
We got a ways to go. We're at 400 and something. So if you're on Apple and you want to show the Spotify guys, hey, we're more loyal listeners on Apple than you guys are over at Spotify, leave a review, guys. That's all we ask. That's how you can help us. And you can also just keep tuning in the show. We really appreciate every single one of you guys that show your support. Get back to us. Let us know what you think, because it means the world to us. We love doing this, and the train ain't going to stop.
Clean up your mouth, Sawyer.
Yeah, I know. I get that a lot. Clean up your mouth. But you know what, guys? I keep it real. This is who I am. And yeah, I probably should watch my mouth a little bit. Maybe as I get older, I'll do a little bit better. And I could probably do better on the JCs and and taking the Lord's name in vain. I could probably do better on that. But I'm not going to stop saying fuck. I like saying fuck. It's a great
Sawyer. You just fucked that up.
I know it's a great word. You can use it in a lot of ways.
It's the most descriptive adjective there is.
It is, and so I'll try to tone it back a little bit. But man, when I get going, guys, I'm gonna be 100% who I am. And you ask anybody of my friends, you ask anybody that knows me. Hell, you could even ask my teachers back in high school. I probably got in trouble more for cussing than anything else. So
it's a poor reflection upon your parents.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Piece
maybe
of shit.
Parent. Probably just parent, because the other parent doesn't put up with it.
Well, I mean, yeah, it depends on who I'm talking to. But guys, if you want me to be who I am, and I want to be who I am on this podcast, I'm gonna drop some cuss words from time to time.
It is barn talk.
Yeah.
Not. I mean, it could.
We're not shooting it in a pew in a church.
No.
We're in a barn.
I mean, it could be machine shed talk, hog building talk, or barn talk. You're all going to get the same. Now, Sunday dinner with mother, that's not going to sound quite the same. But at the same time, you wouldn't have the quality of conversation that we have up here.
That's right. 1,000% right. How are you doing?
I'm good. Boy, this is nice. It's a nice day. We've had a really nice stretch of weather. Just really nice, not a lot of wind. Thing I hate is so many nice days in the spring in Iowa. It's nice weather, but man, that wind is just terrible. But it's been pretty good. Gotten a lot of stuff done. Got a lot of stuff to do. It'll be time to side dress here before long. Crops look amazing, but I would be a poor farmer if I didn't throw out there that we could use a little rain.
I was going to say, we need a little bit of rain.
It's getting a little dry.
Yeah.
So, the window of perfection, if you're a farmer, is not very big. So we wanted warm weather. We needed warm weather. We got it. And now we could use a little rain. Yep. And the markets, I think, are reflecting that.
Yep.
You like that?
I do like that. Now you better tell them what's going on in the markets.
I do. I've got a pretty good market report with a little commentary thrown in there. So corn 623 locally, and 577 on the board. But I know it's up as we speak because dry weather is in the forecast, and now then the traders are like farmers. A lot of funds are going short because they think that this corn market is oversold and it's getting dry, so they're going to try to ride it a little bit. Harvest starts in Brazil in 2 weeks, so that's going to put some pressure on because once they start selling corn, probably will sell it cheaper than what we're trying to sell it. Iowa's 95% planted versus 87% is the average, and overall, I want to say nationwide, I want to say we're like 87%, somewhere in the 80s nationally versus 65% a year ago, so we're way ahead. Beans, 1334 at the river, 1322 on the board. Bean market's gotten beaten up a lot lately, and China came out yesterday and said, we're gonna start using more wheat and less corn and soy in our hog diet, so we're not gonna buy as many beans, which is probably bullshit. But it drove the market down, so they'll probably turn around and buy some beans now. But I could be wrong; they can do whatever they want. Soybeans in Iowa, 84% planted versus 66% last year. So wheat 623, hogs 80.67. Cattle 164, feeder cattle 233 for the June contract. Crude oil was 72.94 the last time I looked. That's going off the July contract. Bitcoin 27,500. I don't know. We just cannot seem to get. I think Bitcoin Miami's going on either this week or next week. That's what we should have done. Is gone to Miami.
You gonna leave me again to go to Florida?
I kind of got it. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Leave me when we're gonna start side dressing now.
Yeah. Well. That was poor planning on my part because I should have done that. I think that would have been kind of fun. Go to Bitcoin in Miami. Ethereum 1847, Cardano's 37 cents. That it don't get it for being the improved version of Ethereum. Cardano's never really seemed to get out of the blocks. Tesla $186. And I'll tell you a story someday as to why I think Tesla is just going to go off now. It's just going to go off. But I'm not going to tell you that story today. But it's going to head higher. Bud, I just keep Bud in there because their pain, I'm kind of enjoying their pain, and they just keep suffering. So 58.68, it's not going anywhere, and I don't think that stock is going to go anywhere for quite a while. I think that's about all I got.
That was pretty good.
Yep.
A lot of good in-depth info on that one.
Yes, indeed.
I think people like when you bring in some insights. I like the planted statistic there versus last year. That was a good throw in there.
And I just talked to my fertilizer supplier. Shout out to Whittoff Farm Supply. We're going to start side dressing corn next week. So we don't need much nitrogen, but we do side dress a little bit to get that corn to its full potential, kind of like how we fed Sawyer. We fed him to his genetic potential. We try to do the same thing with corn.
That's why I'm so much taller.
Yep. And in typical, if you've seen the clip, I don't know if that clip's 2 years old or not, but I do a nice little ditty how I talk about in the fertilizer world, there's no scenario where you don't need more fertilizer when you're talking to your fertilizer rep. And he did a good job of upselling me today because he told me we're going to put on some 32%, and then he very quickly said, hey, you going to put some boron in that? Do you want boron and zinc in that? And I said, oh, I just assumed that came with it for that price. Oh, no. $5.32 an acre for the boron and $8.23 for the zinc. And I said, you think I need that? And he said, oh, you're deficient. I guarantee you deficient. All this corn I look at, it's always deficient. I said, I kind of figured that was how it is. So like a good sucker,
You took the bait.
Took the bait. We're going to put on some boron and zinc, which I do think it does pay. If you look at the highest yielding corn, one thing that it has in common is usually it's not deficient in boron. So it's good to have it out there, and boron leaches pretty well. That's why you put it on at side dress, because to put it on in the fall or in the spring doesn't help you much, because it probably is going to leach out on you. So better to put it on side dress.
Yep.
So I think that's all I can talk about crop right now.
Well, okay. I think you got her all down. I think they know what's going on.
I'll start with the first question.
All right, you go ahead.
This come out of the last This'll Do video I think we had, but we've had it many times since this whole circus started. Sawyer, do you have a mother, and why does nobody ever see her?
I do have a mom. My dad isn't just this guy that goes off to Florida and is bacheloring it. I have an amazing mother that has been married to my father for...
Will be 30 years.
30 years this year. From the very beginning, since I came out the womb, they've been together. So she keeps the unit together, and she just doesn't like being on camera. She doesn't like being on camera. It's just one of her things that she just likes to stay off, and we respect her on that. Sometimes we mess around and like point the camera at her when it's off, just to get a rise out of her. But yeah, it's just kind of a respect thing. She doesn't want to be on, so we don't put her on, and she's amazing, and she probably could add a lot to the videos, but you know what? It's not for everybody, and when we started this thing, it wasn't meant for everybody. That was not my intention at all, was to get the whole family on YouTube. So that's kind of where we're at. Maybe someday she'll come on, but that's just how it is. But she's done a good job raising me. She keeps us all together. Mm-hmm. She's a detail-oriented woman. She likes to keep things nice and clean and tidy and looking good. So we need that, because that, like, for me and maybe Dad's probably gotten better over the years because he just got beat down. But for me right now in my early adult life, look at things looking good. It's like priority list. It's like down here for me. I'm not all about that. But it's good to keep your lawn mowed. It's good to
keep the patio clean.
And maybe as I get older, I'll get more anal about that stuff. But anyway, that's the reason. That's the reason you don't see her.
Yep. If you want to play Where Is Waldo, there is a YouTube video where we did the open house at the Babcock. And there is a cameo of her walking through the camera.
Yeah.
That's the only time. I think that's the only time there you can hear her. If you ever see one of our videos where we're barbecuing and we're in the kitchen getting ready to serve it up or whatever, you can usually hear her in the background, but you never see her. So that's not her thing. So she works behind the scenes to keep the machine running. So
yep. She gives Torque the beat down when he needs it.
Well, I'll tell you, here's a good pro marriage tip for men out there. Definitely let your wife make you a better person, because we all know that there are things about us that need to be worked on, and it's a never-ending process because you're always trying to improve yourself, or there are things that are blatantly obvious to everybody but yourself that need to be worked on. However, the key to a long, happy marriage is don't ever make them give up hope. Even though there are things that Trisha will probably never fix with me, and she gets frustrated about it, I do give her glimmers of hope every once in a while, and that's what keeps her around. Because if she thought it was a lost cause...
You're a project.
I am a project for her. If she thought it was a lost cause, 30 years, we would have never made it 30 years. But we're stronger than ever, and I think actually that she's more optimistic than ever that she will finally fix me.
There you go.
And that's what it takes.
That's the ticket, I guess. So. All right, so Prop 12 update. What's the deal on that, Torque? What the hell's going on? California just said, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and everybody seems like we're just going to obey.
Yeah. First of all, unpopular opinion. So my unpopular opinion is that the national pork producers should have invested in a better lawyer, because I don't think that we did a very good job arguing our case. And the reason I say that is because now we're sitting here. You had a split decision in the Supreme Court. The ruling was 5-4. And how you did not make a strong enough case that this totally goes against the Interstate Commerce Clause is beyond me, because now then it's going to fall on the Senate, and they're debating this right now. Chuck Grassley had a blip about it, because by upholding California's Prop 12, you have now automatically given the bill that was in the election in Massachusetts that they passed, you've automatically given it legality. So they won't have to appeal that, because it's basically a piggyback. It's a little different, but it's the same kind of bill in Massachusetts. Okay, so now you take this to its logical conclusion. There is a possibility that you could have 50 different rules from 50 different states that pork producers in Iowa would have to meet. And you can't do that. And you can say, oh, no, that'll never happen. Okay, well, that'll never happen on 50 states. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't have it on 12 different states or however many. And there's no way. That's the whole reason that we have the Interstate Commerce Clause, because it's pretty much, it makes commerce between states damn near impossible when one state can dictate how a product or service is produced in another state. That's the idea. So since this did not get fixed by the Supreme Court, and I'll say this, by the Supreme Court, if they would have voted it down, it still didn't fix it, because California would just go right back. They would just change it, whatever. So it's going to have to be dealt with, and the legislature is going to have to deal with it. But and I don't care if you're talking about pork or you're talking about chicken or you're talking about widgets. You have to have a standardized set of rules concerning products and services that are sold throughout the United States so that you can have orderly commerce. And whatever that looks like, it has to be standardized. And California's throwing a wrench in that. To me, that's the law side of it. The animal welfare side of it, there are plenty of guys that are already been on the bandwagon. We had Rob on here, and this new sow unit that he built is already Prop 12 compliant, and he remodeled one of his other ones. The company we feed for has a unit that is Prop 12 compliant. So there's people that are gearing up to have the production to meet those standards.
Because there's a premium.
I
mean, that's capitalism at work right there. I think that.
So out of all of this, there are two sets of people that are going to lose. On the farmer side, there are guys that have smaller units that are independent, that are going through a really tough time right now because the hog market is trash.
Bloodbath.
Feed costs are high. You're burning through cash. So there are smaller independent guys, farrow and pigs, who I might add are exactly the kind of people that well-meaning liberal people and the kind of people that you would find that would vote for Prop 12 in California. They want all these small little farmers. Those are the backbone of America, and those are the people we want to support. Well, you're not supporting them. You are stabbing them right in the back, because the people that can least afford to update their facilities to meet these standards are the ones that are going to get pushed out because they're not going to get that premium. And depending on their packer and how much business they can line up doing that, they may not be able to sell their pigs to that packer.
Because the packer says, well, you're not bringing
you're not
pork
Prop
to
12.
our standard, so we're going to get rid of it because we got 5 other guys that are going to do it. Yep.
So
that's the farmer side.
That's the farmer side. On the consumer side, who do you think is going to get hurt on the consumer side? It is the person in California that can't spend, that literally they go to the grocery store every week and they have an envelope of money and that's what they got. They can't spend any more than that, and they're on government assistance, or they're working minimum wage jobs, or they got 8 kids, or you name it, whatever it is. They are the ones that are living on the edge.
They're the ones that least can afford it.
And that increase in price, because nobody seems to think this through. For some reason, it's impossible for liberals to think this shit through. When you create friction within the system of making anything, and I say friction because it can be regulations, it can be transportation, it can be minimum wage laws, it can be you name it. Whatever it is that creates friction in the system of producing a product makes that product more expensive. And if a product is more expensive, the people who can least afford the product are the ones that either A, quit buying the product, or 2, lose more of their disposable income to keep buying that product. That's what's going to happen. You're going to buy less pork in California. You're going to buy less bacon. You're going to buy less breakfast sausage because the price is going to be higher. You're going to pay more for it than you are anywhere else in the country. How does that help your citizens? If you are a lawmaker in California, how does that help your citizens? Doesn't. It might make you feel good. It might make you feel like, boy, you're really sticking it to these hog farmers in Iowa. And those animal-hating son of a bitches, we're going to make them treat these pigs better, even though you don't have any freaking idea about animal welfare and you've never been on a hog farm in your life, but you're going to dictate it. But how's that helping your consumers? How's that helping your residents? Well, it's not. Nope. So at the end of the day, I'd say this is probably far from over. If anything, it's made it more, it's made the problem bigger, because now then you've opened the door. This precedent can be used in other products, in other states, and other services where individual states want to dictate what's happening with interstate commerce. So it's going to have to be fixed. And how it gets fixed, I don't know.
So it's kind of like the topic, it kind of is similar in the topic of like the NRA with gun laws. They don't want to give an inch.
Right.
And here we've given an inch in agriculture, pork production specifically, and now it could come to bite us in the ass, not just in California, but other states too. And I think that's a good point on your part, because that's the scariest part of the whole thing. It's not just California, because if other states come out and see that and they want to dictate it, New York wants to dictate the same thing. You know, a bunch of liberal cities think it's a good idea and they want to feel good about it. And they all come out and they dictate a different rule, or for hell, it could be beef. It could be anything. It could be any product. That's where we start to have problems. That's where we start to have real problems. And, you know, like Dad said, there's going to be some people in this industry that benefit from it, you know, and I don't blame them for benefiting from it. You know, they see a market that they can, you know, explore and get a premium price for. That's capitalism, baby. If I was in their shoes, same deal. But, you know, back to your point, the friction that the government causes, you know, I think capitalism can ultimately, good people inside capitalism can make changes in systems. Because I was just sitting here thinking, what would somebody say to your point about government adding friction to systems? Well, they'd say, well, you're never going to change. Systems will never change, Torque. How are you going to ever change for the better? Well, I feel like good people in capitalism will make good change for the betterment of humanity. Good people in capitalism, not terrible, corrupt fuckers. Good people. And you don't need the government to come in and try to change the system if there's good people leading that. So, yeah, that's a good point on your part. It is a little worrisome, and anybody in agriculture should be keeping that on your radar. This Prop 12 thing is just happening to pork specifically, but it could come in your neck of woods, whatever commodity you're raising. This could happen to beef producers. This could happen to anybody producing a product in agriculture. And it could happen outside agriculture too. It could be anything. But yeah, I think I don't know how the hell they got away with it, to be honest. Right. And I was looking at some comments online. I think I came across like an animal sanctuary. Somebody commented something shitty on our page, and it was like some group, of people that hate farmers and livestock farmers and say we're the just worst people in the world. And they posted the video of the Prop 12 hearing and the result. And I read some of the comments because I always check in with comments to see where real people are at. And people that were animal rights activists were even surprised. I saw so many comments are like, I'm happy, but I just can't believe that passed. And it's like, yeah, we really did shit the bed, didn't we?
Yeah,
we really did.
You made a good point there, bringing up what we talked about with the NRA, how, they won't, they're going to die on that hill. They're not going to settle with anybody. They're not going, because they know it's like Pandora's box.
You open the floodgates.
Okay, the flip side of that, national pork producers, our trade group that represents our industry, they've spent a hell of a lot of time giving these people a voice instead of just saying you're fucking crazy and you don't know shit about what we do and we're going to keep doing what we do because we know the best. And instead they've played this game of being apologetic, being inclusive, and bringing these people in and trying to reason with them. And the problem with reasoning with crazy people is that, well, it doesn't work. And this is just the beginning. If this stands as is, which I think because of like I stated earlier, because of how it's going to affect other things outside of agriculture, I don't think it will be allowed to stand as is. Something will have to be done because you've screwed up. You have the possibility of really screwing up commerce between states. So I think something's got to be done. But us as an industry, we have got to get over this idea that we have to accommodate everybody and we have to give voice to every person, no matter how outrageously stupid the idea is. Because if we keep doing it, all you have to do is look at other parts of the world where eventually there'll be no production agriculture in some parts of this world. A lot of European countries are headed that direction because they have just handed the keys to the castle over to the fringe, and it's death from 1,000 cuts. And you take like Germany. Germany won't have there'll be no hog production in Germany in 10 years. There just won't be. Other parts of Europe, I feel like they're headed the same direction. And it's because they just have given and given and given. And it's, it's an inch here and an inch there and an inch there. And I guess it comes down to whether or not you want food security or not. And the other sick truth of it is there's a lot of people in power within your government that really don't want people to eat meat. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not going to come out and say that, but they're going to allow this horse shit to stand because in the back of their mind, it's like, well...
Because it keeps you fucking weak if you don't eat meat. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor, but the more that this like carnivore diet, keto, I'm now seeing an animal-based diet come out. These are a bunch of fad diets, but the amino acids that you get from meat, you can't replicate those in a lot of other protein sources. And I've seen guys say that they feel the best that they ever had just eating fruit, taking out carbs, maybe have a little bit of rice, but it's fruit, it's honey, it's butter, it's meat, it's dairy, and they get their carbs from the fruit and a little bit of rice, and then that's it, and they feel the best they've ever had. And it's like, I don't know if that works. I haven't tried it, but it's like, I feel like people are kind of over the argument that meat is terrible for you.
You sound like someone high on toxic masculinity.
I guess. Call me that then. And I was going to say to your point there about just our industry and, I just relate it to our what we're doing on social. We don't give any time of day to the crazies. I'm not trying to change the mind of animal rights activists or what does Iowa dairy farmers say about vegans? Militant vegans. Yeah. I respect vegans. I respect anybody. Choose your diet. But if you're going to be militant to us, or if you're going to be animal rights activists and literally write in our comments, fuck you, because of what we do. I'm not going to give you, we're not going to give you the time of day. I'm not trying to promote our industry and show what we do to those people.
Right.
I'm showing it to the meat eaters. I'm showing it to the consumers that eat meat.
And just want to know where your food comes from.
Where the food comes from. And that's what we got to do as an industry.
Yeah.
Just show the people that eat meat how we produce the product.
Yeah.
And keep feeding those people.
Our job is not to change the hearts and minds of people that have already decided that
we're the enemy. We're the enemy. It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do us any good. And they are the minority. They are such a small group in the grand scheme of things. They're such a small group, so I don't know why we even care. But anyway, that's all we got on that topic. Yeah. I thought we did good on that one.
So that's the best I can tell you. I don't have any good hard answers other than the fact that something needs to be done because it's going to affect a lot. It's going to affect a lot more than just the hog industry.
Pandora's box is open.
Correct. You are correct, sir.
We got to take a little break because I got to tell you something real important. If you guys aren't watching our This Will Do Farm YouTube channel, you're missing out. It's just like this, only shorter and on the farm. Definitely go check it out if you haven't subscribed yet. Give us a like, give us a comment, let us know you came from Barn Talk. And with that being said, let's get back into the podcast.
This is a good paintbrush broad stroke. Connor asks, if I have $15,000 to my name, how do I start farming?
Well,
to the chalkboard.
Yeah, no shit. We need a whiteboard. You're going to need more money than that, probably, to start farming, I would say, at a large scale. But, man, there's so many ways to get into farming nowadays. There's so many different little sections of agriculture that are getting developed. Vertical farming. We just talked to a guy the other day that's helping a young farmer that's growing mushrooms in a warehouse. He's growing mushrooms either with, artificial light, and created the system to grow them in a warehouse, and he's selling these mushrooms to people, and he's making a killing. I mean, there's so many different areas of ag that, like, I think an interesting sector is industrial ag in urban areas, like growing mushrooms in a warehouse, like vertical farming, microgreens. I mean, there's so many, little things like that I personally don't know a lot about, but I'm sure the upfront costs of those are probably they're probably smaller than trying to do corn and soybeans here in Southeast Iowa or wherever you're at, because that takes a lot of capital. Hell, we're not even equipped, and we've been in it for 6 generations. We're not fully equipped, and we don't have everything we want, and we're still trying to get by day by day. So it's a challenge, man. And I feel like we get this question a lot, but it's just all about trying to seek opportunities and getting creative. It really is. You just got to get out there and find new ways to get into ag, and just kind of trying to explore them and work at it and work on your craft and meet new guys, meet new people.
Yeah. I was thinking, that's a pretty broad question because I don't have any idea where you're located. But one of the biggest problems in our industry is lack of labor and the average age of your farmers.
Yep.
So 2 things that you can exploit as a young person is that if you want to get into traditional farming, there are a lot of people that are probably looking for somebody to help with their farming operation. Then the other side of it is there's probably someone in your area that is an older person that has a farming operation, whatever they grow, whatever they're doing, that may or may not have a plan for what's going to happen when they can't do it anymore. You need to get involved in your local community in areas where you're going to run in and talk to people that are connected, because we talk about this all the time. One of the greatest unseen benefits to our social media and what we've done has nothing to do with views or likes or clicks or anything like that. It has everything to do with the people that we've met and the conversations we've had and the things that we've learned that we would have never learned or met those people otherwise. Well, your opportunity is only limited by the size of the circle of people that you come in contact with, because somewhere there's somebody out there that can help you. Mm-hmm. That needs something that you have or can point you in the right direction. So just keep grinding, and don't be afraid to ask. We said that last year. What we learned, the most valuable thing we learned last year was don't be afraid to ask.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and I just say, if you're going to go I kind of gave you a kind of not wild answer. I don't know what kind of farming you want to get into. I don't know if you're just trying to get in agriculture as an industry, or if you want to be the traditional, you want to run a grain cart, you want to run the combine, whatever. If you're going to go the traditional route and kind of go do what Dad said there, make sure that you pick a farmer that and you might not figure this out right from the get-go, but if you work for him for a couple years, and then you need to start asking the question, hey, there's nobody else here, family's not here, do you think you could, or you think you might be able to rent me a piece of ground or sell me a chunk, or
farm it on contract,
shares. And if they give you if they say no, get the fuck out of there and go try to find somebody else. Make sure the farmer that you're going to spend all that time and all that work with is going to give you a piece at the end of the day. If you're going to go that route, make sure you pick the right farmer to work with. And if you do that and he says no and you leave that farmer or that farm, just move on to a next one. But the knowledge and the skills that you would have gained from working with that farm is probably a lot. So when you move on to the next farm, you'll have even more skills to your disposal. But the other thing that I always say when we get this question, and, Grant Hilbert is a great example of doing this. Ethan Clark's a good example of doing this. Gavin Spoor is a good example of doing this. These are all guys on social media that are first-gen farmers. They have better knowledge than I do, because I'm not a first-gen farmer. But Grant specifically made his money off farm and then got into farming. So that's also another route, man. If you want to farm and that's like your biggest passion and heart and desire is to farm traditionally, you're going to need a lot of money. So you can go that route, or you can go in another industry, get really good at it, really high level skill, and try to make the most of it and make a lot of money that way. And then take that capital and put it into your first farm. I mean, that's worked for Grant. I don't know the other guys. I don't know Ethan or Gavin personally, so I don't know their story all the way, but probably something similar, or probably something like what Dad was saying, where they met somebody and it got them involved. We need to get those guys on the podcast, but I hope that answers your questions. There's a kind of a lot of ways you can go about that. There's a lot of ways you can go about it, but there are ways to go about it. So it's not like you have no hope. You just got to get to work, pick one, choose it, go. If it doesn't work, choose another one. If it doesn't work, choose another one. I mean, you got options. You just got to, you're going to have to bust your ass. I mean, that's the truth of it. No matter what direction you go there, you're going to have to bust your ass. And I think you know that, if you know how hard it is to get into farming. So just keep grinding, man. Just keep grinding. We'll try to get some more first-gen farmers on the pod to maybe help you out with that question, because we get that question a lot. So,
yeah. Well, I'm going to piggyback off of that.
All right.
Because the next question kind of similar, just coming at it from a different way. So this is a little bit of a lengthy question, but I put the whole thing in because I didn't know how else to break it up. But Fields asks, what advice would you give? I'm still in high school, love everything farming, but none of my family farms. Eventually, I would like to start my own farm, but it seems really hard since I can't inherit any acreage from my family. I work on a farm now, and they are happy with my hard work. So how could I prove to them and have them trust me to run more equipment even though I didn't grow up around it? Not saying I'm trying to be lazy and just sit in a tractor, but I think you get what I'm asking. It's just little things, I guess, that come natural to a farm kid that I feel like I don't have. For instance, we were strapping down a skin loader, and I didn't know where to tie the strap. When they started doing that, when they were like 4 years old, they kind of just know, and they look at you like you're stupid.
Well, I would just say, no, I think that's a good, Fields, I would say to you, dude, I feel stupid some days. I was there. Hell, I didn't know how to chain down a skid loader on a trailer. We had just bought our first trailer how many years ago?
Yeah, I don't know.
3 years ago?
4 years ago.
And I'd never even used a trailer before. Yeah. So, dude, there are gonna be people, no matter what thing you're learning, that are always gonna give you shit for being a novice at learning something. But don't let that get you down, because you don't know what you don't know, and the only way to learn is by doing. So don't take that, because I know how that feels. I hate feeling like a dumbass. I hate not knowing how to do something. It pisses me off to no end. I hate it. But the only way you're going to learn is just get in there, and you might have some embarrassment, and just learn and do it. That's the only way you're going to do it. And I think probably those guys looked at you like that, but they respect you. You're working hard. They understand that our generation is, there's not a lot of kids willing to get into ag, so I think they definitely probably respect you for getting into their operation and helping them out, and you said they respect you for your hard work, so they see that you work hard. And they just probably gave you a little smirk, just give you a little bit of shit. Maybe they're giving you a little bit of shit because that comes with any camaraderie or any, football team, sports team. Anytime you have a bunch of males, I don't know if this whole farm's, male or not, but anytime you get a group of guys together and somebody doesn't know how to do something, chances are you're going to get some shit. But I don't think I hope that they weren't coming at you in that way, but I bet they weren't. I think that they respect you. And so I just say, keep doing what you're doing, man. At least you're out there learning that shit. At least I think just as you start doing more, showing up, continually showing up, learning, I'm sure you learned how to strap down a skid loader now. So now you got that skill, you know how to do that. And I think as you learn more of that small shit, they'll probably start to trust you as you get the little stuff down. And, I don't blame them. If we hired somebody and they never ran a tractor before, the first thing I'm probably not going to make the first thing I do throw you in a tractor. That's probably not the first thing I'm going to do. It's a grooming process. It's can I trust you with the little stuff? Yes. Okay. You've proved to me that I can trust you with the little stuff. So now let's take you on to bigger and better things, and they'll probably put you in a tractor eventually. So I would just keep going at it, man. Don't let them get you down. It happens. It happens.
The other thing I'd say is, I don't know, from the sound of your question, and I might be inferring more than what I should, but it sounded to me like there's multiple people involved in this farming operation. And figure out who's the guy that is the one that knows. Because usually in any operation, so when I worked construction, there was one guy on that crew that he pretty much knew how everything should work and how it should be done. And everybody else just kind of followed his lead. And there were plenty of people that talk smack like that they were. There's not any safe spaces usually in farming operations or construction, and everybody likes to try to get one up on somebody. But there's usually one person involved in that operation that everybody respects because he's the one that kind of has been around the block and knows how things work. Okay. When that guy talks, listen to him, because there's going to be people that don't listen, and somebody that knows what they're doing, just watch them and listen, and don't be the one running your mouth and try to have a story with everybody when stuff's going on. Just watch and listen, and you can learn a lot that way.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yep, and there are no dumb questions. There's just dumb answers. I wanted to say that at the beginning, because when it comes to Barn Talk Q&A, there's no dumb questions.
Yeah.
We might give a dumb answer, but no dumb question.
And I would just say, don't be afraid to just fully admit, hey, I don't know how to do this. And that takes some balls to say it, because nobody, especially somebody that's been doing something for a while, when you have a new guy come in and then they act like, oh, I fucking know how to do everything, I'm just as experienced as you guys, or they just have that mantra to them, that like, hey, I'm a blue collar boy, I know as much as you guys, I can get it around. That pisses people off. They don't like that. So take your ego out of it, man. I don't think they're gonna get pissed at you if you just go, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me? I don't know how to do this. Most of the time, most good people are gonna be like, that's all right. Here you go. This is how you do it. Instead of you acting like you know how to do it because you're the hot shot and you go up there and then you don't know. And now they're gonna be like, they're gonna crack some jokes and laugh at you because it's like, all right. Yeah, you don't know how to do that. If you just went and said, "Hey, I don't know how to do this."
If you want more responsibility, be the guy that is responsible.
Yeah.
Because when you prove that you're responsible, you'll get more responsibility.
Yep, that's a good point. It's a really good point. So, but I mean, back to your point of just feeling stupid, dude, I feel that a lot. Especially working with this one, because he knows the inside and out of a hog barn better than just about anybody. He can fix anything. Doesn't matter if it's plumbing. Doesn't matter if it's drywall. Doesn't matter if it's electrical work. Doesn't matter. This guy knows how to do it. And so sometimes I feel like a dumbass because I have to call him and I don't know how to do something. But that just comes with it, man. And I've had to tell myself what I'm telling you now because, God, I fucking hate that. But you know what? It's the only way you're going to learn. So.
Side note, Sawyer said fix all those items. He didn't say fix well. So there is a difference.
You got to give yourself a little bit more credit than that.
I can fix a lot of things, not all of it well, but good enough to keep going at least another day.
It's just like what Mom's trying to do with you.
Kind of the same.
Wow, look at that tie-in.
She's just trying to get another day.
It's a good tie-in right there.
Good job.
Linda asks, I was listening to one of your podcasts and you said to get into a good habit of reading. I love listening to your business advice in ways to be successful as a young adult. What are some good things what are some good things you would recommend to read?
So, depending on what your interest is.
Sounds like they like business.
Yeah.
So
there's a few books that everybody will tell you to read, but they're good books. So
foundational.
Richest Man in Babylon. That's a great book. Pound the Stone. That's a great book.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Think and Grow Rich. If you want to get really tactical, like you're a business owner, Traction is a good book. I'm reading The Company of One right now. It's a really good book for anybody that wants to be kind of a solopreneur. You know, you want to have a smaller business and, you know, not have a shitload of employees and shitload of overhead, but still be really successful. It's a good book. There are so many books out there, but I would just say this, and I've heard somebody say this, and it's true. The only books you should be reading are the books that you can apply right now in your life. There is no point in me reading books about a book solely about culture when I don't have a business with a shitload of employees to improve my company's culture. Because you're not gonna retain it as good. When you're going through a problem and you're going through some shit and you pick up a book that is specific in the shit that you're going through, and you have an epiphany, that epiphany is going to stick with you way better when you're reading that. And it's going to apply so much better when you're going through that shit. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does.
You know, I just have found that when I'm like, if you're trying to start a business, you should be reading books about how to try to start a business. You know, that's a good tool, a good tip that I feel like that I've applied in my reading that's helped me a lot, because I forget shit that, I'm going to save this and remember it. And when I'm at this point in my life, then I'll remember it. Or if I'm at this point in business, then I'll remember it. You ain't going to remember it as good. You're just not. You might remember a couple things, but you're not going to remember as much as if you were going through something for that specific book. So that's my 2 cents on the whole reading anyway. But I literally, anytime I come across a thought leader, a business owner on social media, anytime I see somebody recommend a book, I write it down or I add it to my Amazon. I have a list that's just books. Anytime that they recommend a book that's going to help me in business, help me in life, help me in finance, whatever, if they recommend it, I put it in my books and I just save it. That way I have just a whole list. So I recommend doing that because there's so many books that you don't even know about that could be foundational, but we named a pretty good amount of them.
That's a pretty good word to get started.
And yeah, good habit of reading does not hurt to read. It's always a good one. But also, I want to get better at being 100% consistent in reading, but I'm at the point now, we're so busy that if I can just learn something new every day that through a podcast, through videos, or through reading, that to me is that's a good day. So
are you still a believer in annotating?
I am. I do, you know, to the extreme that you annotate in school. I remember like we'd have to annotate and you'd have to write. It was a little too extreme. My annotating is underlining shit that is a gold nugget. Like that sticks out to you. Like that really applies to, like, I don't know that. Like it's got to be something that like, wow, I have not thought of it that way. And you can go, like, I catch myself doing this when I'm reading, like, it's a good line, like, it's a really good line, but I already kind of know that. You got to, like, check yourself a little bit when you're underlining shit. Don't underline stuff that you think you kind of already know, because there's just no point. And you're like, well, duh, Sawyer. But somebody might word something a little bit differently than the way that you learned it, and then you might be like, oh, that's good, and underline it. But if you got to just kind of sit there and think, be like, I already kind of know this. There's no point in me underlining this. Yeah. Just underline the really good gold nuggets. And that's about the extent that I do. And I was transferring those gold nuggets over to a journal, to a notebook, so then I wouldn't have to go back to the book and read through the book again. I could just look at my journal and retain the good stuff that I got from it. But that takes a long time to do that, I found. It takes your reading sessions from 30 minutes to like an hour to an hour and 30 minutes. And sometimes I don't have that time. So I've been kind of just like underlining stuff and just reading, because writing all that's too much. So
yeah. The other advice I'd give you is, I don't have any idea what kind of business you're in, whether you work for a company, but I I listened to a podcast. I think it was actually, it was probably All In. I would recommend that if you're interested in business. A great podcast, and I probably say this all the time, but to me, it's one of the best out there when it comes to business. Is All In podcast. Those guys, they're kind of from the VC world, but their grip on what's going on in the business world and their own personal experiences and how they deal with stuff within the companies that they've been involved with it's just pretty hard to beat. But I'd never heard this advice, but they were talking to a person that was the CEO of a company, but he became the CEO. He actually worked for the company and was promoted within and became the CEO. And that's not all that unusual, except that he jumped pretty quick from wherever he was. And he made the comment that one of the things that he did early on when he was working for this company is he actually sat down and read the annual report of the company. And there was a lot of stuff he didn't understand. So then he Googled all that. And he got to the point where he could read the annual report and he knew what all the terms meant. And that he kind of self-taught himself. He kind of self-taught. And then that sent him down a road. He was really interested in the financials. So then he started reading books about the financial organization of a company. And he ended up going back to school and getting his MBA and all that, and he ended up becoming the CEO of this company. But his point was that if you're going to invest your life working in a business that you don't own and you want opportunity, you need to know that business at least as well as the management team that's in it, no matter whether you work in the warehouse or you're working in accounting or you're working on the floor building whatever it is. And I'd never heard that before. Like that was something I definitely would underline. So if you're one of those people, if you're involved in a business, know that business better than anybody outside of that boardroom and read and understand the processes and the economics and the conditions that all affect the company you work for. And
treat it like you're an owner.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you know it like the owners know it, that's valuable to the owner of the company.
Opportunity will come your way.
Yeah, exactly. 1,000%. Dan asks, do you think the ag industry will ever adapt vehicle suppression systems?
Yeah.
Adopt or adapt?
Adopt or put on. So he actually works for a company that installs these, and I think he kind of comes from the logging business. So, I didn't know this, but it makes sense. If you are involved in the forestry business, it's probably a pretty big deal if you have a log skidder that catches on fire in a timber, because everything around you is a fire source, and they don't want that. Obviously, they don't want to start a forest fire. So they have these suppression systems that and I'm assuming that they have sensors to detect some form of an ignition. And if they do, it's like having a big fire extinguisher on that piece of equipment, covering the engine compartment or possibly the cab too. And there's plenty of fires. There's plenty of field fires that have gotten started from combines. Every year you see it. There's a combine catches on fire and catches the field on fire. And here a few years ago, there were a couple of big fires out in Kansas. And I don't know if they were started by equipment or not. But to your point, I mean, I don't know. I guess what it all comes down to is whether or not there's a big enough demand from the consumer side, the person buying that equipment, to make Deere want to include that. And then the other side of it is, I'm sure on their part, whether or not their profit margin's big enough on doing it that they can that they can make it come out in their favor. It's a great idea, and honestly, I'd never thought about it. It makes sense, and I don't know whether that will ever happen or not. As this equipment gets more and more and more expensive, like when you think of an X9, I saw an X9 for sale that had 6 hours on it, and they wanted $700,000 for the combine without the heads. It was 2022 model, and you start thinking about investing in that piece of equipment. I don't know what fire suppression would cost, but I'll bet you it's probably a worthy investment. So,
if the margin's good enough for deer, I'm sure they'll throw them on.
Yep, that's probably what it comes down to at the end of the day. So,
I think you got that one pretty good. I don't really have any thoughts. I mean, I think it'd probably be one of those situations that, depending on where you farm,
yeah,
it might be a good idea to get one or not. Because for us, I mean, have we ever had a combine fire?
No,
I don't think so. I've never witnessed one in my life. I just didn't know if you did. So, yeah, for us, it just doesn't happen. But if you're a wheat farmer in Montana,
everybody has got fire extinguishers on. I mean, I don't know of anybody really that's got a combine that doesn't have at least one fire extinguisher, and a lot of guys carry two, because if you ever do get, actually, I think David's dad had a 9600 that caught on fire, and I want to say they had a fire extinguisher, and they got the fire out, and it started back up because it was leaking oil. And they actually ran out of fire extinguisher before the fire trucks got there and ended up burning it. I mean, it was a total loss. But so I think there's a lot of people today that, they carry multiple, because you think about a piece of equipment that big, if you get it going, one fire extinguisher is not going to put it out. So anyway, probably a good idea.
But you know what else is a good idea?
What?
Whiskey Minute.
Look at that. The Whiskey Minute
Minute is back. We're going to do a Whiskey Minute on this episode. So why don't you keep them entertained, and I'll pour you up one.
Okay, so today we're going to be sampling. Is that single barrel? Yeah, that's single barrel. So it is Four Roses single barrel. And I picked that because I'm a big fan of Four Roses. In fact, many of you know that I have done I've done what they call a freezer old fashioned, and a lot of times I'll use Four Roses small batch for that. And they pretty much just make three different, I shouldn't say this because I don't know 100%, but Four Roses kind of just makes three different deals. They make a single barrel, they make a small batch, and I think they make their regular. And it's a sweeter bourbon.
I like it. I like Four Roses, but I gotta say, guys, I'm probably gonna have, what do you call that? What kind of face? Bitter face. What do you call it? Sour face?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have
out of practice.
I have not drank whiskey in a while, so I'm gonna have a little bit of an expression, I'm sure, even though this whiskey is good, because anytime I get an old fashioned, it's either Makers or it's this, or that's about it, because I don't want to buy anything super expensive at the bar. So,
well, what I was going to say was, I feel like Four Roses kind of gets a little bit, I wouldn't say they get bad press, but they're not put on the same pedestal as some other bourbon companies. And I think it's a little odd because, at least for me, their product is just consistently good. I've never had a bottle of like the single barrel that wasn't just really good. And I will say, like, I like Knob Creek, but I've had bottles of Knob Creek that they just weren't as good as, like, I've had some bottles that I was sad to see them go. I had one bottle that I was sad that Sawyer found because that was really, really good. But then I've gotten a replacement, and it just wasn't as good. And you think, well, am I just remembering it wrong? But Four Roses is something, it's not overly expensive, and it's consistently good. So maybe I should quit talking and we just have a so.
That's good.
That is good.
That's way better than our other ones.
Bullet.
Oh God, Bullet's terrible.
What would you say?
God, it gives me heat though.
What would you say is the worst? What's the worst that we've tried?
Bullet or that Peaky Blinders shit.
Bushmills. I think Bushmills was the worst.
Anyway, I think that's going to be the show, guys. You got anything else to say?
I don't think so.
You're repping your Jeep shirt today.
Yeah, I did get. I finally have a shirt that says Jeep.
People are asking, where the fuck can they find that hat?
Oh yeah, so
show the camera.
This is Sawyer got this for me for my birthday 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
I don't know. Time flies, man.
And it says "Take pride in your Q." So this is not actually like a pig hat. This is a barbecue hat. And Malcolm Reed, How to Barbecue Right. Look him up on YouTube. And he's on TikTok too. That man, he's the best. In fact, you know, we do a few little barbecue videos once in a while. We throw it in just because we like to show people what we're doing. Everything that I know about barbecue, pretty much, I got from watching Malcolm Reed. And he's a savage. I mean, just great recipes. And if you've seen him, I will just say this. He is exactly, you don't even have to listen to him talk. When you see him,
the accent helps though.
When you see Malcolm, you will say to yourself, now there's a guy there that
knows how to barbecue right.
Knows how to barbecue.
Yeah.
Because he's a big boy. But he also does a podcast with his wife.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on. He makes some good shit.
And I use a lot of his seasonings. You can get them on his website.
How to Barbecue Right.
And I don't know I don't know if this hat's still on there or not. But that's
and if
where
it's not,
it.
We're going to try to step up our merch game, guys. You know, it's just hard getting hats made and all that stuff. But I'm going to try, I think that's a goal of mine this summer, is to try to partner with somebody that we can make some cool merch like that. Because, shit, we can make that hat. We can make that hat. Hell yeah.
Because let's face it, pigs are patriotic.
That's right. They sure as hell are. So I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. If you got any value from the show, you know the drill. Pay the fee, share it out, leave a review, submit your questions at barntalkshow@gmail.com if you want to get them featured on the next Q&A episode. We appreciate every single one of you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you back here next week for another episode.